Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice Podcast, episode 220. I'm the host, Kim Newlove. This is the introduction to my Pharmacist Authors Series. In June and July of 2023, I'm publishing 13 interviews. I've got 12 interviews with pharmacist authors, and I've got one interview with an audio engineer who helps pharmacist authors publish audiobooks. In just a minute, I'll list the authors and I'll talk about the audio engineer in this series, and I'll tell you what you can expect from our interviews. If you're new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, I am Kim Newlove, the host. I'm a pharmacist by training. I went to the University of Toledo College of Pharmacy and graduated with my BS Pharm in 2001. But I'm not in clinical practice anymore. Among other things, I narrate audiobooks for pharmacists. Not only do I get paid to read books, but I also love to read them off the clock as well. I grew up in a small village in Northwest Ohio called Pemberville, Ohio. When I was growing up in the 80s, because I'm almost 45 here, I was growing up in the 80s, and my mom and dad signed me up for the local summer reading program at the library. Basically, I set a reading goal, or my parents set the reading goal, and we visited the library throughout the summer and borrowed books so I could read enough books to hit my goal. I am pretty sure that libraries still have summer reading programs today. If you are raising kids, check your local library today. Anyways, the program got me out of the house and into the library where I would see my friends, and for reading the books, I would earn prizes. Now, I have a confession. Until I was 18, yes, 18, and had graduated from high school, I was a slow reader. I read slowly, and I did not like to read because I read so slowly. But when I was younger, I did like seeing my friends at the library for the summer reading program and earning prizes for reading. What kid doesn't like seeing their friends and earning prizes? It was fun. The summer reading program at the Pemberville Library is a fond memory for me. And FYI, I started to really enjoy reading in my late teens and early 20s when the Harry Potter series came out. Until the Harry Potter series, I actually was not really a fan of reading, again, because I read so slowly. And then later on in life, in my 30s, when I discovered audiobooks, there was no stopping me. I loved reading. Sometimes it just takes the right book or the right series or the right media, like the audiobooks, to get someone to really enjoy reading. What do I read now, you might be wondering? 4 out of 5 books that I read right now are nonfiction, and I would say that about 90% of the books, 9 out of 10 books that I read, are audiobooks. One of my favorite series ever, my favorite fiction series ever, is the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Ivanovich. And one of my favorite nonfiction books ever is Storybrand by Donald Miller. Storybrand by Donald Miller. Check that one out today. If you like to hear about new books or you want to feel inspired by pharmacist authors, I hope you'll make time this summer for my Pharmacist Authors Series. It can be like your own personal summer reading program. Listen to the interviews and then check out the books. This series may even inspire you to write a book too. All right, if you're wondering which authors are in the series and what will they be talking about, here's the lineup. To kick off the series on Friday, June 9th, Dr. Salam Kabani will be on the show to talk about her book, COVID Long Hauler, My Life Since COVID. On Monday, June 12th, that's my interview with audio engineer Julie Walthers from Whole Story Studio, which you can find at wholestorystudio.com. That's wholestorystudio.com. What will Julie be talking about? She'll be talking about working with authors to create the audiobook version of their printed book, either by casting someone, a voice talent, to narrate the book or narrating the book themselves. If this sounds like something you're interested in, tune in June 12th. On Friday, June 16th, Dr. Erin L. Albert returns to the podcast to talk about her book, The Life Science Lawyer. Erin was on episode 93 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast talking about thought leadership through writing and publishing. Next up will be on Monday, June 19th, my interview with Dr. Sue Ojigir, also known as Dr. Sue. She'll be talking about her children's book, The Pharma Heroes: The Power of Precision Medicine. Then on Friday, June 23rd, Tony Guerra, PharmD, returns to the show to talk about his pharmacist residency and career series. That's 8 books in total. Tony Guerra was featured on my Pharmacist Dad series in June of 2022. Tony and his wife have 3 daughters. They are triplets. That episode is number 156 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast if you want to listen to Tony talk about his daughters. Then on Monday, June 26th, that's my interview with Dr. Christina Fontana. She'll be talking about her book, Moving Beyond the Counter: Elevating into Heart-Centered Healthcare Through Entrepreneurship. That also happens to be Christina's birthday. So happy early birthday, Christina. All right, on Friday, June 30th, which happens to be my anniversary, I will be having my interview with Dr. Jade Ranger, PharmD. She'll be talking about her book, Mustard Seed Mentality. Mustard Seed Mentality. Jade will also be on the podcast in October of 2023. On Friday, July 7th, Rear Admiral Pam Schweitzer, PharmD, returns to the podcast with her daughter Amy Graves to talk about their children's book, Alice and Jack Hike the Grand Canyon. Dr. Schweitzer was featured in episode 185 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast for Veterans Day 2022, if you want to check that out as well. On Monday, July 10th, Corey Jenks, PharmD, returns to the podcast to talk about his book, Permission to Care: Building a Healthcare Culture That Thrives in Chaos. Corey was my guest on episode 89 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. He was talking about using improv comedy in healthcare, which is something he also talks about in the book. Then, on Friday, July 14th, it's my interview with Dr. Donna Bartlett. She'll be talking about her book, MedStrong: Shed Your Meds for a Better, Healthier You. And on Monday, July 17th, it's my interview with Dr. Frida Wiley. She'll be talking about her book, Telecommuting Psychosis: From Surviving to Thriving While Working in Your Pajama Pants. Plus, we also touch on 3 children's books that she has in development. On Friday, July 21st, pharmacist author Tim Ulbrich, PharmD, returns to the show to talk about his book, 7-Figure Pharmacist: How to Maximize Your Income, Eliminate Debt, and Create Wealth. Like Tony Guerra, Tim was also part of my Pharmacist Dad series in June of 2022. Tim and his wife have 4 sons. That is episode 154 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast, if you want to check that out as well. And finally, on Monday, July 24th, LaQuoya Johnson, PharmD, will be on the show to talk about her book, How Racism Manifests Inside the Small World of Pharmacy. I'll wrap up the Pharmacist Authors Series on July 28th with a brief solo show. Then I'm back to my regular weekly production schedule in August. 2 months, 15 episodes total, this intro plus 13 interviews and a wrap-up for the series. Join me for the entire 15-part series. And what will the authors be talking about? Each author dives into what their book is about, why they wrote it, who the audience is, why someone should read the book, what the author wants the reader to do with the information, and where you, my listeners, can buy the book or the audiobook. And as a bonus, most of the authors in this series read a short sample of their book, either live or pre-recorded if it's from an audiobook, to help you decide if the book might be right for you. As we start to wrap this episode up, I want to wish you a safe and fun summer, hopefully with some reading in the mix. Check out the books in the series and connect with the authors. Let them know that you heard about their book on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Thanks for listening to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, episode 220. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes. In the show notes, you'll find links to all 12 pharmacist authors, plus Julie Walters, audio engineer extraordinaire, links to all 12 books, my social media links, and more. Please feel free to reach out to me and the authors and connect. I'll be back this Friday, June 9th, with my interview with Dr. Salam Kabani, author of COVID Long Hauler: My Life Since COVID. Thank you for listening today. I'll talk to you Friday.